What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm here with 3 book reviews today. Let's get started. Favorite reader, that's who you are. Traveling near, traveling far. Through every chapter, you're the star. Favorite reader, that's who you are. Okay, so I'll just start with the order that I have on my lap. If ever I think I can't be more disgusted with slavery, if ever I think that like my thoughts and feelings and emotions and whatever towards it can't get any worse, I'd be wrong. Every time I learn something new, every time I read something else, every time I hear other people's accounts, I'm disgusted. I'm flabbergasted. I really don't think I can fully conceptualize just how bad it is. And this book, The Delectable Negro, Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture by Vincent Woodard. I started this book in 2025, but I just finished it. And it's about what it says it's about. It's about the human consumption of Black people in the U.S. slave culture. It's about literal consumption, like literal cannibalism, but also about social consumption, about spiritual consumption, about this hunger for Black bodies in a multitude of situations. There's accounts in here of Frederick Douglass, accounts in here of Harriet Jacobs, the accounts in here of many other people, and just I'm just like literally. And what I'm saying in this book kind of applies to the next book I'll be reviewing too. But I really have to sit back and think. There are like there are groups of people who derived pleasure and joy and literal like satisfaction from torture, from hurting other people on large scales, from like inflicting certain levels of pain. Just that's just barbaric. I mean, obviously slavery is barbaric, period. And then like it's already bad. And then you just keep going on. Like there was times in this book where the author kind of talked about how different plantation owners would try to like one up each other with their level of torture. And it's just like, y'all think this is a game. I'm just, this book was dense. It is written like very academically, which I don't know what I was expecting. And like my only, I think, critique with this book is there are times where I feel like me and the author had a different definition of what the word homoeroticism was, because some things I wouldn't put it in that category, but I mean other things I would. But other than that, it's just like, and people don't want these stories told, but it happened. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just, what else? What else can I say? Yeah, like it's disturbing. It's disturbing. There's also like a major portion of this book that's dedicated to Nat Turner and his treatment, what he like his actions, and then what was done to him. And it's like I'm disgusted all around. I don't even know. I'm disgusted. It took me, again, I started it last year, finished it this year, and I was just like, man, what else? I kind of like, and this happens anytime I read a book like this. Like, this happens anytime. Just these, I almost want to, like, I'm sick to my stomach. And If you, I would recommend this to people to read. If you hear the title and you feel like you can, deal with a book like that and handle that, then I would suggest reading it. Take your time. Again, it is written pretty academically, but still, it's dense. But man, like, it's just sick. I don't even know, but the Delectable Negro. I knew I wanted to finish this because I put it down for a couple months, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. But yeah, that's that. The next book, like I mentioned before, this book gave me like similar feelings that I had towards the Delectable Negro. Not quite, but in the same vein. That is The First and Last King of Haiti, The Rise and Fall of Henri Christophe. This book, I was disgusted as well. But this, while this book talks about the human consumption and slavery, while this book talks about the U.S. slave culture, hope you can see it. Goodness gracious. While this book talks about the U.S. slave culture, this book is talking about Haiti. It's talking about the slave culture there. It's talking about, again, the first and last king of Haiti. And I really didn't know anything about King Christophe, like nothing at all. We took a trip to the Dominican Republic last year, and I was talking to a guy who just moved there from Haiti, and we were talking about like their current government and political situation. And he mentioned King Christophe. And I was like, oh, I think I saw a book, dedicated to this. What's that about? And I picked it up, and there's an overwhelming theme of history being written by people who hate the people they're writing about. The biographers of this book did not like this man. They didn't like what he stood for. They didn't like his idea of freedom and liberation. They didn't like what he did for his community and country. None of that. And it was reflected in his writing. The author meticulously researched his legacy, what was written about him, like pushed back on myths, pushed back on misconceptions, exposed them. And even when there wasn't concrete evidence, it was put on display as well. So it's very clear when something was like hearsay, but the author would present different evidences from different sources. And so you can kind of just see a really thorough compilation of what we know about King Christophe. And yeah, this is interesting. His what we kind of know about his upbringing, the people around him, his wife, his legacy, how sadly his demise, and what like you can control. I think there's a part of this book that says you can control your destiny, but you can't control your legacy. And so in his case, his end was tragic, but then he wasn't around to write about. I mean, he wasn't around to tell the story about what he actually did, what he actually stood for, and the truth of things, because there was a lot of lies. Interesting when I really think about, same thing with this, they didn't want certain stuff written and talked about and actual physical evidence of what was taking place. They didn't want people to know this. Talks about his personal life, cultural impact, social impact, political rise, everything. It was very, again, I feel like I'm saying the same thing about these two. This was dense. This was dense. This was heavy. This was heavy. This irritated me on a guttural level, as did this. As did this. Both of them well researched, both, worth reading. And I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I read this because, again, I didn't know. Like, obviously, I knew about slavery that took place in Haiti and other Caribbean countries, but I didn't know to what extent. And I didn't know anything about King Christophe. And so I'm very glad I read this. Glad I got through to that. He was a Haitian revolutionary. He had talked about the Haitian Revolution. It talked about what was demanded of the people of Haiti. Very interesting book. Very, very interesting. Okay, the last book. It's a fiction book. These were heavy. Worth the reads, but heavy. The next book is a fiction book, and that is Theft by Abdul Razak Gurna. Very interesting. This is the first book that I read by this author. And in full transparency, I almost DNF'd it. I almost DNF'd it. I was this close. This close to DNFing this. I'm glad I stuck with it. It paid off in the end. I enjoyed this book at the end, like towards the middle and then the end. I enjoyed it. This book is about three young people. It's a coming of age story, and it's set in Tanzania. It's interesting. At first, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, who's talking? The author took the stylistic approach of not including quotation marks, which, you know, I see often. Not often, but I've seen in literary fiction. And I was just like, I don't know who's talking. I don't know what they're doing. Like, why is this lady here and she here? Whose kid is this? But it came together really well. It had three distinct main characters. They had their own lives, their own stories. And you kind of got to see how their paths crossed. It's a story about identity. Again, like I think most coming of age stories are. It's a story about looking at the world and making sense of it, seeing it clearly for the first time. It's heavy on coming to terms with the situation that you have no control over. One you were placed in, one that is confusing, it's unfair. It's a lot of things, and just figuring out how you're going to adjust to it, cope with it, make sense of it, what that means for you and who you think of yourself as a person. This is a book that crept up on me. Again, I was going to DNF it. I'm not even kidding. It's been a few books I almost DNF'd, and I kept reading because I was like, it doesn't suck, but it's just not. Something is just not there. And I kept reading. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But in this case, I kept reading and I was like, oh, this is actually beautiful. There was one piece that was kind of predictable. But, you know, one thing I can say, though, why I wanted to DNF this book is I found myself like coming in and out of it. Like my interest and investment kind of waned. It was one part I'm like, okay, I'm super invested. This is good. And then it would just kind of become like background noise. And then I would get interested again. Then it would come background noise. And I kind of did this song and dance until I was like locked in. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool the way that the story came together and shaped up. It is a slow novel. It is a novel that you might lose interest in. I did. This is one that it takes a look at colonialism, but from a approachable lens, from a very like relatable lens, it's just interesting, like the way that the whole thing is put together. I enjoyed it. It's talking about their ordinary lives. It's talking about growing up, some going to college, some choosing this route. It's talking about being an orphan, just so many things. Good book that I almost DNF'd. I think I will read another book from this author because I'm interested to see, is that just like his writing style? Is that just kind of how he gets down? Or was it just this book that was super experimental? But that's it, y'all. These three right here, it was something else, okay? Emotional roller coaster with these two. Furious, disgusted, angry. What else? And then this one was, I wasn't that interested at first. Almost DNF'd it. Then turned out to be really good. That's it. Let me know if you read any of these. If you want to. What you think about them based on what I said. And I'm going to see you in the next one.
Pages turning soft as silk. Story A journey starts with every line, worlds unfolding in your mind. Bookmarks falling where dreams collide. Every cover's got a tale inside. Favorite reader,